Welcome everyone to the ROI webinar series. We're thrilled to have everyone join us today for the session where we'll be diving into the world of e-commerce and the post-purchase experience. My name is Dennis. I'm the CEO and founder of Tidal Commerce. I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. We'll try to keep it under 60 minutes, hopefully. And we're incredibly honored to have two amazing industry-leading vendors join us today, Loop and Malamo, two technology juggernauts, especially in their field in the Shopify Plus ecosystem. So together with our guest speakers today, we'll be exploring the current trends in e-commerce post-purchase, the opportunities there, as well as address some of the key pain points that all of you may be facing today. So let's buckle up and let's get started. I'll pass it off to yourself, Noah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dennis. Hey, everyone. I am Noah Rahimzadeh, head of partnerships at Malomo. Been here for just over a year, about 14 months now, but been really close to the Malomo team and especially the founders, going all the way back to my college days when I started a company out of school and they helped me out. So really excited to be joining them on their mission and be in this awesome space that we call e-commerce. And with that, I'll pass it over to Vaishali.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vaishali Ravi. I'm a product marketing manager at Loop. I primarily focus on technology integrations and also our new point of sale product and tracking. So I've worked really closely with Noah in the past, which we'll get to in a second, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Back to you, Dennis.
Yep. Thank you. No, I'm going to unmute myself real quick there. So just to speak very briefly about Tidal Commerce, we put together this series of webinars, obviously, to help provide more actionable and tangible tactics from an ROI perspective. All of us are trying to save at least on costs or perhaps make more money on the top line. So either way it be, really the whole genesis of this webinar series is to bring together really qualified partners like Malamo, like Loop, that can really help on those missions. Further to that, at Tidal, our whole vision is to be the tide. So all that comes and culminates really around commerce as a whole. Our services around commerce are kind of really focused on development and consulting, and we try to be holistic in nature. So touching on managed services, consulting, marketing, and migration. So more than happy to chat offline if there's any interests on the topic. I'll hand it back to yourself, Noah.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks again to the whole Tidal team, and especially to Dennis and Aziz for having us and a brand new and awesome partner in Loop together for this session. I think it's going to be a good one. So today I'm going to be talking about how the leading e-commerce brands are turning their post-purchase experience from a cost center into a revenue channel. So really hitting on that theme of ROI that Tidal is doing this series on. The ideas I'm going to be sharing are based on learnings from some of the amazing brands that we've had the luxury of working with. Brands like Lashify, Rhone, and Mudwater, really established e-commerce vendors in the space. Before we get to those ideas, I do want to kind of set the stage, and I think this will also translate well to what Vaishali is going to be talking about. So I want to set the stage on why a great customer experience isn't just important, but in today's day and age, it's essential. So in 2013, the average e-commerce brand lost $9 for every new customer that they acquired. Probably should have said this up front, but there's going to be some trivia throughout. So chance for a free lunch here. For a $25 DoorDash gift card, what do you think that number is today? Please drop your answers in the chat. So just a little bit of clarity on the question. How much is the average brand losing for each new customer that they acquire today? As a reminder, for those who may already be dozing off and tired of hearing me talk, the average brand lost $9 for every new customer that they acquired in 2013. So wondering what that has risen to today. You can drop those in the chat. We'll get a winner. I've got my trusted teammate Mariah monitoring in the background for a winner. Thanks, Mariah. We'll just give this a couple more seconds for the sake of time and move on here. Show the answer. Okay. So the number is $29. The average e-commerce brand is losing $29 for every new customer that they acquire today. That is up 3x from just 10 years ago. And obviously this is due to a lot of factors. Some things that come to mind for me: iOS privacy changes, inflation, increased competition, supply chain disruption, and also, the return of in-person shopping all sort of contribute to that rising acquisition cost. The numbers simply just don't lie on this one. As we've seen, losses from first purchase growing 3x in the last 10 years. Modern brands can't survive if the focus is always just on driving growth through acquisition. But the good news, there's a massive silver lining. Profits from repeat customers are healthy and growing. So in fact, profitability from your loyal customers, meaning repeat buyers, has grown 35% over that same time period. Moral of the story here is pretty simple. There's no sense in acquiring new customers if you don't have a plan to keep them coming back. But before brands are able to drive repeat purchases, again, they need to be sure that they keep the new customers that they acquire. One surefire way to lose new customers right away is to provide a poor shipping experience. So another chance for a free lunch here. What percent of customers won't return to a brand after just one bad shipping experience? Get those answers in. Great opportunity to try that new Chinese place down the street that you've been wanting to hit up. And we'll just give it a few seconds here and get a winner. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so bad delivery experience isn't exactly a surefire way to lose customers, but it is damn close. 84% of customers won't return to a brand after just one bad shipping experience. So let's talk about why Shopify brands especially struggle to provide a great post-purchase experience. For most consumers, the order tracking experience still looks something like this. You start by browsing a new store, which is usually a super engaging, branded, fully immersive experience. But then once you buy, that experience completely flips. You're sent a very transactional, sort of stale email telling you your order has shipped. And this is typically the last communication you'll receive from a brand about your delivery. Then when you click to track your package, you're taken to a carrier tracking page that is oftentimes confusing and difficult to understand. And when you see the experience laid out like this, it feels like pretty disjointed. It's almost like the brand is giving you the impression that once they've gotten your money, they don't care much, if at all, about the experience you have after that. So what's the opportunity cost of just providing the Shopify out-of-the-box order tracking experience to your customers? On average, 15% of your web traffic is going to the order tracking page. This makes it arguably the most, or one of the most, trafficked and viewed pages in all of e-commerce. Imagine just giving away 15% of your web traffic, and yet that's exactly what most brands are doing by using the standard Shopify out-of-the-box post-purchase setup. Just putting that sort of another way with a different statistic, customers track their package 4.6 times per order. So that's 4.6 chances to engage your customers while they are most excited about your brand, which most merchants are still giving up to carriers like USPS, as shown in this example on the slide. But here is a look at what the retention leaders in e-commerce are doing instead. They start by turning off the Shopify post-purchase emails and move them over to their ESP, where they then have full control over branding and content. They also have more control over the notifications that are sent, giving them the ability to proactively communicate updates with customers, which I will talk a lot more about in a second. And then instead of sending customers to a UPS page, brands send them to a tracking page on their own site that gives them real-time status updates in, much more human-friendly messaging alongside those estimated delivery dates. And both their emails and their tracking pages become marketing assets that brands use to drive buyers back to purchase, provide useful interactive content, and even just, educate their customers on their products or their brand. As you can see in the side-by-side comparison, the brand-owned experience on the right is much cleaner and much clearer than the generic experience. And not only that, talking about those notifications that I mentioned previously, these customer-centric brands are also able to automate communication when shipping issues arise. The fact of the matter is, in this logistics climate, customers expect delays. What they don't appreciate is not being made aware when things go awry. So be sure to let your customers know if there is any sort of exception to their order. The simple ability to proactively notify customers in such circumstances can significantly reduce customer churn and cut your CX burden in half. Okay, so now we've kept our customers. That is huge, huge win in and of itself. But let's dive into the real reason we're all here, which is maximizing ROI from your post-purchase experience. One very simple way to drive additional sales post-purchase is to include relevant products on the order tracking page. Any Shopify brand can easily add a featured collection to their page and begin driving repeat purchases virtually immediately. However, the brands focused on maximizing their ROI are using a product recommendations tool like a rebuy, for example, to personalize the products each customer sees. So in this example, the merchant added a rebuy block to their tracking page, so each customer sees product recommendations that are most relevant to them. On average, we see a 3% repeat purchase rate from the tracking page, meaning that 3% of your customers will buy more stuff from you while they wait for their initial order to arrive. That is always a crazy stat to me. One of my favorites, actually, because it's so wild. And that 3% may not sound like much, but for many of our brands that we've worked with, it's meant high 6 or low 7-figure returns in a matter of a year since up-leveling their post-purchase experience. Another really common and effective use case is to segment your subscribers and your non-subscribers. So we know that one of the best things we can do to keep customers coming back is get them in the subscription program. For customers not already enrolled, why not use this opportunity while they are super excited about your brand to drive subscription signups? This is exactly what Soylent has done in this example by leveraging Recharge. On top of that, for non-subscribers, they're also surfacing product recommendations via rebuy, similar to what we saw on the last slide. Driving reward program signups is another great idea while your customers are super engaged. But what if a customer has already signed up for the subscription and the rewards program? First and foremost, that must mean they're a loyal fan. Great job getting them to that point. But with that in mind, why not promote your Refer a Friend program to those most loyal customers? This super easy use case turns your retention tactics into a lower cost acquisition channel. And it's important to remember that this is a time that the customer is super, super excited about your brand. Brands who are not capitalizing on the post-purchase journey are missing out on massive results. So Soylent, for example, saw a 54x ROI on their order tracking program with the help of their agency partner, Electric Marketing. Ilia Beauty saw similar results and uses this opportunity to put their referral program front and center. By leveraging friend buy on their order tracking page, they are creating a retention to acquisition flywheel. So in summary, merchants driving ROI from their post-purchase experience move all of their post-purchase transactional notifications to their marketing platforms so they can use delivery events like in transit and out for delivery, as well as exceptions like stalled in fulfillment or shipping delays, to proactively trigger emails or SMS messages that often reduce CX tickets by 50% or more. And by reclaiming the tracking experience, they're taking advantage of driving all of that web traffic back to their own website. This allows them to reconvert excited shoppers by showcasing product recommendations, collections, UGC, referral programs, and dozens of other marketing campaigns. Possibilities are really endless there. And all of that sort of culminates into a 3% reorder rate while customers wait for their current order to arrive. With all of that said, I just talked a lot, so I'm going to take a break, pass it to my good friend Vaishali, who's going to be talking about where returns and exchanges fit into this picture.
Thanks, Noah, and thanks so much, Dennis and Aziz, for having us today. You just heard a lot about how you can get return on a branded tracking experience, and I'm going to share more on the return on returns if you get what I'm saying. But before we really jump into how you can get ROI out of the returns experience, I did want to share more about Loop and really why you should listen to us. So Loop is purpose built for Shopify brands. We are a returns management solution, but we're hyper focused on exchanges because we believe that when a customer gets a product they love from you, that increases customer loyalty. You get to retain that revenue, and you're ultimately lowering your reverse logistic costs along the way. We have over 1,800 brands like Allbirds, Figs, Princess Polly, and Chubbies, and what's pictured here, Aviator Nation, which we'll talk about them in a second. Next slide. So 84% of shoppers say a positive returns experience encourages repeat purchases. That's huge. You just heard from Noah that repeat purchases and loyal customers means more money in your pocket, and you're getting a lot more out of them than you might be getting out of a one-time buyer. So it's really important to invest in that positive experience in both the pre-purchase and the post-purchase so that they come back for more. So why does a returns management solution matter, and how can it impact that positive customer experience? Well, first, what's awesome about a return management software is that it ultimately is self-serve. So you're making returns A, easy to find, and B, to actually complete, all while providing a personalized experience that doesn't involve anyone from your team. So a customer at any time of day, whether it be 7 a.m. in the morning, 1 a.m., noon, you don't need to talk to a customer support specialist. You can go on, put in your order number and your zip code, and decide what you want to return or exchange for. And in that, they're also looking for a lot of optionality. So I highly recommend that you don't default to refunds, which is what is the easier thing to do when you don't have a management software. When you are having your customer support team do this via email, it's a lot easier to just have one outcome that is really positive for your customers, but honestly, ultimately negative for your business, and that's refunds. Instead, we highly recommend offering exchanges with incentives, which I'll chat about more in a second, pushing for store credit. All of these can help you retain more revenue. And then the final part of automating your returns is the logistics. So beyond legacy carriers like working directly with USPS or FedEx or UPS, shoppers also really appreciate options. Like we just talked about before, they want to be able to have a bunch of different return outcomes. They also want to have multiple ways to send back their product. And this includes at-home pickup, return bars, drop-off locations, really anything that better fits their lifestyle than box and ship, alongside box and ship. And what automating your returns can also do for you is find you the best rates for box and ship and these other options as well. So you're saving on reverse logistic costs along the way. When you also automate your returns, you're getting a lot more data that you might not be collecting when you're manually completing returns. In fact, 60% of returns with Shopify brands are due to wrong size or style. This is an incredibly solvable problem. You have other sizes, you have other styles of the same product, and this customer might be going in and thinking, oh, well, this top in medium in black didn't really vibe with me, and I guess that's it. I'm just never going to try this brand again. And instead, you can use this data to improve your size chart. Maybe there's a lot of mediums being returned that actually are a size small or a size large. So improving your size chart by capturing that information on why the returns are happening. Maybe a color like black isn't pictured correctly on your website and it's coming more like navy blue in person. You can take better photos, or you can even change the color name. And then you can also update your products along the way. So those first two solutions, like taking better photos, updating your size chart, those are immediate solutions. And with more data, you can also make long-term decisions on how you change your product altogether. Maybe ultimately you decide to change the fit of your t-shirts. So these are all things that happen when you're able to automate returns and collect this data with return reasons along the way that you might not get when you're inundated by emails about returns and you're just trying to get as many labels out as possible and restock as quickly as possible. In fact, when a customer completes an exchange, they're 33.8% more likely to shop again. That's why exchanges are so critical. So A, making it easy to even get to the return process. B, understanding why returns are happening so that you can encourage exchanges. And then the third part, which we're getting into, is how do you incentivize those exchanges? So there are a couple of tactics we recommend at Loop for encouraging exchanges. And I really want to emphasize that you don't necessarily need to work with us to make this happen. You should always keep this in mind when you're thinking about automating your returns experience. So the first one is to make exchanges the first option. A lot of return management solutions default to having a refund or store credit at the top because at the end of the day, we know that's what customers initially come in wanting. They're thinking, I just want my $50 back and I want to move on with my day, or like they're kind of upset that the item they got didn't work for them. So putting exchanges up top and reminding folks that, hey, you can actually just try again with us is really important. The second aspect of that is making sure that they get access to your whole catalog. Yes, 60% of returns for Shopify brands are wrong size or style, but what about the other 40%? You don't want to lose that 40% by only offering a different size or a different color. You want to tell them, hey, you don't like our t-shirts? Well, we have sweaters, we have shoes, we have bucket hats, making sure that they know that there's a lot of other products that they can try out with you. The third part of that is making the logistics really easy for them. Offer expedited or free shipping, making sure that you can ship out the exchange item before they even return the previous item. This is especially key for size. Maybe, like for example, with swimsuits, you want to try multiple sizes in person before you decide which one you're going to keep. And a tactic to encourage exchanges over returns here is to charge a fee for return shipping. So, okay, you want a refund? Well, we're going to charge you a $5 label fee. But if you pick an exchange, we'll do shipping for free. So while you're incentivizing exchanges, also remember that you can do the opposite and disincentivize refunds and store credit. You can also offer additional store credit. Oops, sorry. You can also offer additional store credit on exchanges. So if they pick an exchange, say, hey, we'll give you $10 more if you want to shop now with us. Or if they're picking a refund, then you can say, oh, you don't get those $10 because you're choosing a refund. And then the last one that I did touch on a bit is charging a fee for store credit and refunds, which can come in the form of a restock fee or a label fee. So I did mention that we have an awesome customer, Aviator Nation. When we started working with them, they said our returns philosophy has really changed. Returns are no longer a cost center, but a profit center. We didn't realize how much revenue could be generated through returns. And you'll see in the next slide, Aviator Nation has had a lot of success with automating their returns. They've seen a 56.6% increase in revenue retention rate. They've seen 11% decrease in refund rate, and their average upsell value per return is $10.50. I will caveat that if you haven't been on Aviator Nation's website or you're not familiar with them, their items are typically in the $80 to $200, $300 range. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're going to see an $11 uptick in upsell value per return, but you will see something proportional to the cost of your products. And that's huge when you're thinking about how returns were previously a money suck for you, to the point where a lot of brands don't even want to offer returns. Instead, thinking about returns as a profit center can really shift how you approach your business and also how you generate more money for your business. So with that, the reason Noah and I are here together is because we have a really awesome integration. You heard a lot from Noah about how a branded tracking experience can make a huge difference in retaining your customers and driving repeat purchases. And you've heard from me how a positive returns experience can drive repeat purchases. When you bring them together with Loop and Malomo, you're getting your branded tracking experience where you're recommending products and you're having a really positive experience with your landing page, coupled with a really simple and obvious way to make returns and exchanges. So the big barrier previously that return solutions have is working with their brands to make it really easy to find the returns page, because even though brands agree, yes, it's important to have a return solution, they're still hiding it. With this Malomo integration, you're putting it front and center because you can't hide a tracking page. Tracking pages are super important and they're the number one thing customers are looking for post-purchase. The second thing they're looking for if they don't like their product is how to return it. So it gives you full transparency on how to make the return and exchange, but then that same page will update with your return or exchange tracking information and the status of your return. So you're driving your customers back to the same page. They don't have to look in a different area. Yes, they're getting updated emails, but they can just keep that tab open on their phone. And then because they have those product recommendations in front of them and those hyper-personalized CTAs in that tracking experience, that's top of mind when they go into their returns experience. So they're on their tracking page, they're seeing these product recommendations when they're going to make their return. They click into the return, and then they're thinking, oh, I feel like I just saw something about this new sweater they came out with. Maybe I'll try to exchange for that instead. And I think that's really where the power of Loop and Maloma together come. And I do have a question for y'all. Well, we gave away the answer, but what percent of customers do you lose after just one bad returns experience? Hit it, Noah. Let's give it to them. You lose 33% of customers after just one bad returns experience. So you heard previously 33.8% of customers are more likely to buy again after a positive exchange experience. 84% of customers are going to repeat purchase after a positive returns experience. Losing a third of your customers after a bad returns experience really sucks. So it is more important than ever to take your returns and tracking seriously.
Sorry, I messed that one up, but
you're fine. Take it away. Close it out.
It worked out. We got the information delivered. That's all that matters. So yeah, did you want to speak to this one, V?
Hi, you can go for it. I think I was supposed to.
Yeah, you kind of hit on it already. But just kind of showing the example that Vaishali just talked through. Everything is also mobile optimized. So really, really good looking on mobile, which is important because tracking is, I don't remember the exact stat off of my head, but tracking is viewed, I think, between 80 and 90% on mobile devices rather than the desktop. So making sure that your tracking experience and returns and exchanges for that matter is optimized for mobile is super, super important. Obviously, this is just an example on mobile of that delivered screen with the ability to start a return or exchange right from there. But to what Vaishali was speaking to earlier, we're also giving constant updates throughout the returns and exchange cycle, is just like we would on the regular delivery cycle. So not only can customers start a return or exchange directly from the tracking page, but they can also track that entire experience end to end. So if it's a return, super important for most customers to be able to know when they should expect the refund to hit their account, which is usually, when that item arrives back at the brand's warehouse. This allows them visibility into that so that they can know when to expect the refund. If it's an exchange, they are able to track the return back to the warehouse and the new item that they exchange for to their home. So really, really powerful use cases there. And again, to Vaishali's point, additional opportunities to drive upsells and cross-sells and overall LTV throughout that entire experience now. As you can see from the team at Suit Shop, who we recently published a case study with together, combining branded tracking with returns and exchanges is really a no-brainer if you're looking to up-level your post-purchase experience. So we actually just launched this integration with Loop a little over 2 months ago and already have almost 50 merchants already getting value out of it. So if any of this is interesting, feel free to hit up Vaishali or I. I don't think I have my email on here anywhere, but Mariah, if you could drop that in the chat, or I can here in a second, that would be awesome. And hope to speak with some of you as a follow-up here. I think with that, I'll pass it back to Dennis to open up the Q&A and wrap us up.
Thank you both. This was brilliant. I learned a bunch. It's surprising to hear that we can lose about a third of our customers through a bad return experience. So thank you, Vishali, for taking lead there, and Noah on the Malamo side of it is equally interesting to learn of all those facts. So I've been making some notes here in terms of other people putting in some questions for Q&A. Please do feel free to put in your questions into the chat. As you both have been going through the presentation, I've made a bunch of notes here. So I'm gonna kick us off with our inaugural question with regarding to another kind of, I guess, unseen force or unspoken force that we didn't talk about much today, which is Klaviyo. Um, Obviously, we know how important they are to the flow of a return, to the flow of a actual post-purchase discovery or post-purchase delivery. So can you speak to both of you, actually? I would love to hear a little bit more about the refund process flow. How's Klaviyo's integration baked in, not only for online, but also in store? You know, we see merchants big and small, some that are using Shopify POS as well. And then for the Malamo crew, you know, for yourself, Noah, a little bit more about, I guess, the actual post-purchase delivery. Like, how are you tracking all the courier updates, all the pings and the triggers that you may get from their system? So I'll hand it off to you first, Vishali.
Cool. So we really love our Klaviyo integration. We spend a lot of time refining it. And really our goal is that we make it as customizable as possible for the merchant. So we definitely have recommendations on what triggers they should use to initiate different emails. But at the end of the day, they have access to all of our data to make that happen. So at any point through the journey of the return, the refund, store credit, or the exchange, they can trigger emails to send from Klaviyo. So if it's on delivery status or in transit, for example, if they want to couple it with tracking information, and that's how Malomo and Loop worked better as well, is when you can customize those elements together in Klaviyo. Or really, if you're using any other integration, even if Loop doesn't directly have one, I think Klaviyo is like a great middle way to bring it together. And it's as simple as just turning off our emails and turning on Klaviyo for that. So we do have some templates. Um, and then you did ask about store, right?
Yes, in
Oh, yeah.
store. Yes, I know that's on the horizon, or it's new. It's coming up soon, right?
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, we're going to come out with Loop Point of Sale to simplify order management, returns, and exchanges in store. And what's great is that it's consolidating all of your returns data across in store and online. And then it's also sharing more information via Klaviyo with your customers. So yes, you can send Loop emails, but you can also use Klaviyo to send your gift card in store immediately, and you can have product recommendations. You can send them like, hey, thanks for stopping by the store. Here's 20% off your next purchase. So you can send incentives through there as well. And because we're directly integrated into Shopify, that means we're also directly integrated into Shopify POS. So you won't have to worry about double emails.
Awesome. Yeah. For us, pretty similar, except you wouldn't be turning off any emails in Malomo. We don't have anything native within our own platform. We sort of thought about the build of our product in the sense of like, we don't want to take merchants away from the tools that they already know and love. We just want to enhance them. So instead of building our own email product or our own SMS product, we wanted to have a best in breed integration with the leading players in those spaces. So Klaviyo, Attentive, PostScript, regardless of the messaging platform that you're using, you would turn off your emails and any sort of SMS that you're doing out of Shopify, move those over to your ESP or your mobile messaging platform. And we have pre-built templates and flows where we're capturing shipping events from our carrier integrations, passing those to the messaging providers. And with our pre-built templates and flows, basically what that means is as a merchant, you don't have to do any of the, hardcore trigger work or flow work yourself. We have those sort of out of the box for you, ready to go when you get started with Malomo. And all of a sudden now you have full control over the messaging that is a result of your post-purchase experience through Malomo.
Amazing. Thank you guys. Wow. I've learned a crazy ton today. I've got, let's do two more questions and then we'll wrap up the session. I
Cool.
think this one I'll direct a little bit more towards yourself, Noah, in terms of the order tracking page, kind of being such an important page as you've kind of defined for us today. I'm curious as to kind of what you've seen in terms of different industries. So whether it be apparel versus toys and games versus, let's say, outdoors versus cosmetics, what are the different ROIs or revenue lifts that you see? Like, what are the relevant KPIs you're tracking? I won't say ROI because we're
Sure.
thinking revenue kind of gets lifted, but it may be other metrics that you're seeing some increases or improvements around.
Yeah.
Can you speak to those and industry-wide as well? Like, how is it different from industry to industry?
Yeah, great question. So overall, across the board, we see 97 cents in revenue per shipment on average. That is regardless of vertical, regardless of AOV, right? Like just on average, we see 97% or 97 cents, sorry, in new revenue per shipment. So if you're doing 5,000 shipments a month, you're getting back about $5,000 by moving your tracking experience back to your own domain. That being said, that obviously varies for a ton of reasons, Dennis, that you just talked about. Vertical AOV is a big one, right? Like if your AOV is much higher, you can expect a higher return, frankly. If your order volume is way more, maybe that means that customers are more inclined to repurchase throughout the post-purchase experience, meaning your return might be more. What I think is really fascinating outside of like just those broad averages is actually like the use cases for which different brands across different verticals leverage the order tracking experience. You mentioned cosmetics. I think that's a great one where obviously I don't know a ton about makeup, but let's say you buy the eyeliner and you're like, oh, I could use whatever the best maybe you could help me. The best complementary thing to eyeliner would be in the post-purchase experience, right?
Mascara.
Mascara, great. That's a great post-purchase use case for upsell, cross-sell. However, especially for these newer entrants to that market, the way in which makeup is applied and the influencers surrounding it who are applying it and getting that brand out there are also a huge driver for that business. So a lot of our cosmetics companies are actually using the order tracking experience to promote those videos, tutorials, user generated content, driving brand awareness, but also helping their customers get the most out of their purchase once that purchase arrives at their door. Really quick other one that I love to talk about is Caraway. They make amazing pots and pans. They started out with Malomo trying to do upsells and cross sells, but they realized this bigger problem of people not knowing how to care for their pots and pans correctly and ruining them. So instead of upsells and cross sells being the main theme for Caraway, while they do drive those post purchase, their bigger use case is just making sure that their customers know what to expect when their product arrives and how to properly care for it to get the most bang for their buck for their nice, more expensive pots and pans that they just purchased. So the use cases and the value that a brand receives from, personalizing and branding that post-purchase experience can vary widely, Dennis, to your point. But there's almost always a great use case for why it's important to bring that back to your own domain as a brand.
Very, very interesting. Very curious because I can definitely see the relevance even for our own brand. We have our own baby brand. We're selling bassinets, strollers, playpens, all that. These are big items. These are expensive items, right? So, part of the experience that you explained with the, sort of caring for your cast iron after you got it, right? It's the same idea with the actual baby product. It's like, you want to see certain demos of it, or you want to see how it's being used by other parents, right? So sorry to pick on you, Noah, but we're going to pick on you again. So obviously, post-purchase is not just, let's not pretend commerce happens in a vacuum online. We have in store, we have merchants of our own that have well over 60, 70, even 100 plus stores, right? So retail has become, it hasn't become, it's always been a beast. It's just now we're seeing the pre-pandemic levels become a little bit more relevant now in terms of the retail traffic. Foot traffic is coming back, spending is coming back, most importantly. Canadians, I would say, are a little bit weird in terms of their spending, especially in recessionary times. I find that we hunker down, we don't spend till we see kind of the first little inkling of, all right, it seems like there might not be a recession, then we'll spend, right? So I would say arguably our retail sector is a little bit weird, but in the States, we know that it's definitely thriving. So with that in mind, how is Malomo going to address the whole BOPUS flow, the in-store, online, the whole omni-channel dilemma? Don't want to put you on the spot, but I wanted to hear if there's anything in the roadmap, anything that you've considered. I'm sure yourself, the rest of the team are very brilliant innovators. So just wanted to see, is there any consideration, anything that we can kind of keep on the edge of our seats?
So great question. I'm going to give you a disappointing answer. We've certainly talked about how we can allow our merchants to leverage similar, value props through the entire, customer journey, whether that be online or in store. Right now, we're natively integrated with Shopify. So unless orders are placed through Shopify, Malomo can't power order tracking, or really any of our use cases today. But it's a fantastic point, one that's very top of mind for us and the leadership team here at Malomo. So kind of disappointing answer, like I said, but we are certainly evaluating. And Vaishali might have a unique perspective on that as well, just given that returns and exchanges also very important in no matter where a customer is purchasing, right?
Yeah, we're definitely having a hard time gauging how to continue to encourage exchanges and seeing, yes, there's a slowdown in purchasing, but there is now an uptick in returns. And really understanding the different tactics that people use when they shop. So there's the concept of bracketing, which I mentioned with swimsuits, where you're buying up one product in multiple sizes. How can brands, it's hard to control how someone initially spends their money, but how can brands anticipate that and use their returns management software to work within those bounds?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to leave you both on a positive note. I know, Noah, you're saying that it's something that probably won't be on the roadmap for a little while. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see Shopify's investment into their POS, to the tune of $500 million. In terms of them really bringing BOPUS to life, we've been very impressed with all the native integrations, I might add, native functionality, nothing third party. It's all out of the box, ready for merchants to use. They install Shopify POS. They don't even need to have Shopify POS for it to work. So definitely something that I think will become a reality probably in the next half a year to a year. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys implement that, because it sounds like a very light lift. But I'm just kind of making this up at the moment, aside from the actual facts, right? So
I believe you. I believe you.
I believe in myself at the moment too, so let's hope it happens. But I will say that really thank you for both your time. Really appreciate the expertise. You're both, leaders in your fields, no doubt. And I noticed the emails here, obviously in the chat. If there's anyone that wants to connect with either Vivashali or Noah, myself, Aziz, anyone else at the teams, whichever teams, Loop, Malamo, Title, we're always here to support. So please just reach out. We'll be able to get you in contact with the right person or whoever you want to chat with. So thank you all, and we'll see you next month for our next Title webinar, ROI webinar. So I'm going to say happy tidings for now. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.